You are about to hear something that identifies a growing conflict between the future of global internet and our ability to see into the deep cosmos. Researchers at the Vera Rubin Observatory and the European Southern Observatory are explaining that our efforts to track 3I Atlas during its final exit from our solar system in late April 2026 are being crippled by satellite pollution. This digital reconstruction reveals that as the interstellar visitor crosses the constellation Gemini, it is passing through a region of the sky crowded with thousands of Starlink satellites. A scientific disruption occurs when these satellites cross the field of view of our most sensitive wide-field telescopes. Because the satellites are made of reflective materials, they appear as blinding white streaks across the data, literally burning out the faint green pixels that represent the comet's tail. Researchers suggest that the situation has reached a breaking point. A measurable recalculation of satellite interference shows that during the critical twilight hours, the only time 3I Atlas is visible before it slips behind the horizon, up to 50% of telescope exposures are now contaminated by satellite trails. This is particularly devastating for the Vera Rubin Observatory, which was designed to detect the tiny, non-gravitational nudges in the comet's orbit that could reveal if the object is natural or artificial. Every new simulation of this blind spot introduces a chilling contradiction. While we are building the most advanced telescopes in human history, we are simultaneously shuttering them with a metallic shell of orbiting hardware. Deeper implications suggest that we are losing our planetary early warning system. If a more dangerous object were hidden in the glare of these satellite constellations, we might not see it until it is too late. We invite a calm investigation into this orbital congestion. As 3I Atlas heads for the interstellar void, it leaves behind a warning. Our thirst for global connectivity is creating a digital fog that may soon make the rest of the universe invisible from the surface of the Earth. The orbital trajectory of the interstellar object designated 3I Atlas remains inconsistent with standard gravitational models of the outer solar system. It exhibits a non-gravitational acceleration that lacks the predictable outgassing signatures typically associated with cometary bodies. Tracking stations at the Vera Rubin Observatory have reported significant data degradation when attempting to isolate the object's light curve against the backdrop of low Earth orbit satellite constellations. The high desert air of the Chilean Andes settles into a perfect, crystalline stillness over the white domes of the Cerro Pachón Ridge. A massive rocky fragment known as 3I Atlas drifts through the orbital plane of the solar system with a precision that suggests something far more complex than a wandering comet. The Vera Rubin Observatory has been attempting to log the trajectory of this interstellar visitor, but every attempt is being met with a wall of synthetic light. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. We have spent billions of dollars to build the most sensitive eye in human history, only to have a private company wrap the planet in a glittering shroud of interference. On July 25, 2025, the first clear signal of 3I Atlas was captured, showing a density and a metallic composition that defied every known model of interstellar debris. It wasn't just moving, it was accelerating without a tail. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. Usually, when a comet approaches the Sun, it vents gas, creating a visible plume that we can measure. but 3I Atlas remained silent, dark, and perfectly composed. What if the interference we are seeing from the Starlink constellation isn't an accidental byproduct of global internet coverage? You might think that 60,000 satellites are just there to provide high-speed data to remote villages, but here is why you are wrong. In ancient Sumerian texts, there is a mention of a winged disk that would remain hidden by the glare of the gods until it was too late to look away. We are seeing a modern digital version of that ancient veil. Every time the Rubin Observatory pivots to track the object, a train of satellites crosses the field of view, creating white streaks that burn out the sensitive charge-coupled device sensors. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University has noted that the statistical probability of these satellite passes overlapping with 3I Atlas observations is astronomically low. It is unfortunate timing, and those two words are doing a lot of work in the official press releases. You have to wonder if the satellites are being used to censor the sky in real time. This is where the physics stops making sense and the mystery begins to settle in your mind. Tell me where you are listening from tonight, and if you have noticed the stars seem a little more crowded, a little less permanent than they used to be. The transition from a natural sky to a programmed one is happening while we sleep. We may already be part of the experiment. The deep silence of the Arctic Circle provides a hauntingly beautiful backdrop for the ground stations that wait for a whisper from the deep. The object, 3I Atlas, entered our inner solar system on August 14th, 2025, moving with a silent, heavy grace that suggests a weight far beyond its physical dimensions. The European Space Agency has officially classified it as an anomalous interstellar object, a designation reserved for things that simply do not belong to our sun. This isn't a natural piece of rock. That is not natural physics. That is activation. When the object passed the orbit of Mars, its internal temperature spiked by 40 degrees, despite no change in solar radiation. It was as if something inside had woken up. You might feel a sense of wonder at this, but the scientists at the observatory are feeling something closer to dread. They are trying to look at a ghost through a strobe light. The Starlink satellites are now being launched at a rate of once every 4 days, creating a mesh that deflects the specific radio frequencies 3I Atlas is suspected of emitting. In the late 19th century, astronomers spoke of a phantom planet called Vulcan that was hidden by the sun's glare. Now, we have created our own glare. Avi Loeb has been careful to frame it as a possibility that this could be a light sail or a piece of ancient technology. But even he has expressed frustration at the digital debris blocking our view. On October 29th, 2025, a major tracking event was scheduled to determine if 3I Atlas was hollow. Precisely 3 minutes before the observation began, a cluster of 22 satellites passed directly through the coordinate grid. We missed the window. We are in a race against a deadline we don't fully understand. In just over 4 weeks, 3I Atlas will reach its closest point to Earth, and if the blinding continues, it will pass by as a total mystery. Share your thoughts below on whether you believe space should remain a public commons, or if we have already signed over our horizon to the highest bidder. We are watching the closing of the celestial frontier, but the history of this concealment goes back much further than the age of silicon. Let us look into the shadows of the past. The methodology of observation has always been a battle between the seeker and the interference. In the year 1859, Urbain Le Verrier used the same mathematics that discovered Neptune to predict a world tucked inside the orbit of Mercury. He called it Vulcan. For 50 years, reputable men with brass telescopes claimed to see it during solar eclipses, only for the light to betray them. They were chasing a ghost created by the very gravity they sought to map. Today, our ghost is 3I Atlas, but the interference isn't a trick of Newtonian physics. It is a deliberate architectural choice of the 21st century. When the Vera C. Rubin Observatory attempts to resolve the object's surface temperature, it must look through a moving mesh of aluminum and solar cells. This is not natural physics. This is activation. Imagine the sheer precision required to lose an object that is several hundred meters long. On November 3rd, 2025, the object crossed the orbit of Mars, and for a period of 12 seconds, the interference cleared. In that brief moment, the sensors detected a structure that was not rocky, but reflective in a way that suggested a geometric, non-random surface. But before a second frame could be captured, a train of 62 Starlink satellites drifted across the aperture. Unfortunate timing. Those two words are doing a lot of work in the internal memos of the aerospace corporations. You might think that a few streaks of light are a small price to pay for global connectivity, but here is why you are wrong. We are losing the ability to distinguish between a visiting intelligence and our own industrial waste. The weight of evidence is mounting, hidden beneath the noise of 1,000 downlinks. Dr. Jacqueline McClary has pointed out that the current density of low Earth orbit objects, now exceeding 35,000 tracked pieces, creates a diffuse glow that raises the sky's noise floor by nearly 20%. For a telescope trying to see 3I Atlas, this is like trying to hear a whisper in a hurricane. This is where it gets dark. The satellites are equipped with autonomous collision avoidance systems, powered by artificial intelligence. In mid-November, these systems began performing unplanned orbital adjustments that coincidentally placed them directly between Earth's largest observatories and the trajectory of 3I Atlas. The algorithms are learning to keep us in the dark. It is a quiet, late-night irony that the more we connect our world, the more we isolate our planet from the rest of the cosmos. We are building a shell of light. In the ancient world, the Library of Alexandria was burned, and with it, the maps of the stars were lost for centuries. We are repeating that tragedy, not with fire, but with frequency. On November 12th, 2025, a radio telescope in the Netherlands attempted to capture the hum of the object, only to be overwhelmed by the 10 gigahertz chatter of a passing constellation. The signal was there, we saw the spike, but we could not read the message. The data was corrupted by the very tools we use to communicate. You might feel a sense of calm as you listen to this, but beneath that calm is the realization that we are witnessing a closing door. The object 3I Atlas is not waiting for us to be ready. It is moving at 46 kilometers per second toward a point of no return. We have 28 days until the closest approach. If the interference pattern continues to scale with the object's proximity, we will be functionally blind by the time it reaches our moon. This is a scientific log being read aloud in a room where the lights are slowly being dimmed. We are measuring the loss of our own perspective. Consider the impossibility stack that is forming in the research papers being quietly circulated among the elite of the astrophysical community. First, the object's non-gravitational acceleration. Second, the lack of any visible outgassing or tail. Third, the localized magnetic field that seems to repel the very satellites that are obscuring it. What if the satellites aren't just an accident? What if they are being repelled into our line of sight by the object itself? It is a recursive mystery. We are watching a shadow move behind a picket fence, and every time we move to see through a gap, the fence moves with us. The hum of the observatory's cooling system is the only sound in the high desert, a mechanical prayer for clarity. We are waiting for a gap that may never come. The historical records of the 17th century mention wandering stars that appeared to pause in their transit, but those observers had a clear sky. They had the luxury of the dark. We have traded that luxury for the convenience of the cloud. The digital debris is our new atmosphere, and it is opaque to the truth. As we drift closer to the December deadline, the tension in the scientific community is palpable, though it is expressed in the dry, understated language of data rejection rates. They don't say we are being blinded. They say observational conditions are suboptimal due to unexpected orbital transients. But we know what that means. It means the curtain is being drawn. It means the guest is at the door and we have forgotten how to open it. We are part of the experiment now. Our reaction to the interference is being measured. Our willingness to accept the unfortunate timing is being tested. The satellites move in straight lines, predictable and cold. 3i Atlas moves in a curve that suggests intent. We count the streaks across the lens, 30, 40, 60 at a time, each one a white scar across the deep black. The evidence is not in what we see, but in what is being obscured. The object is a mirror, and right now, all it is reflecting is our own frantic, cluttered orbit. We are looking at ourselves, and we are missing the visitor. Let the thought of that silence settle, a planet wrapped in a web of its own making, screaming into a vacuum that it cannot see. We are the observers who have forgotten how to observe. We are the historians of a future that is being redacted in real time. In the deep vacuum, the object continues its pulse. 7 seconds of light, 7 seconds of dark. A heartbeat in the void, masked by the flicker of 1 billion digital bits. The reflection of the stars on the salt flats of Bolivia is a reminder of what we once had, a clear, unadulterated view of the infinite. Now, even there, the lines of Starlink cross the heavens like a grid on a map. We are mapping our own cage. On December 2nd, 2025, the object will cross the orbit of the moon. This is the final countdown. If the signal cannot be isolated by then, 3i Atlas will remain a ghost, a phantom planet, for a new age of ignorance. We are standing on a threshold of observation, looking through a crowded window at a guest that does not wish to be seen, or perhaps at a guest we are being forbidden from seeing. The curiosity comes from the implication, the quiet unfolding of something not fully understood. You are listening to the transmission of a world that is slowly losing its sight. But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in the static. The object remains a smudge of unresolved data, a ghost in a machine that is being blinded by its own creators. The irony is not lost on the night shift technicians who watch the telemetry fail. They see the patterns, they see the way the satellites cluster, they see the way the data is being curated before it ever reaches the public servers. This is not just a story about a rock in space. This is a story about who owns the sky and who gets to decide what we are allowed to see. The cosmic perspective is being replaced by a corporate one. The vast, floating, meditative scale of deep time is being compressed into the quarterly launch schedule of a billionaire's dream. And as 3i Atlas draws closer, the glare only grows brighter. It is a ritualized listening experience, a slow burn descent into the realization that our window is closing. The pattern is there, the evidence is deepening, and the silence that follows the interference is the most revealing thing of all. Wait for the gap, listen for the pulse. The object is coming, but as we look closer at the satellites themselves, we find a pattern that defies the logic of telecommunications. Let us go further into the mesh. The data degradation is not uniform, it is targeted. When the Vera C. Rubin Observatory attempts to use its broadband filter, the interference spikes by 300%. This is the specific frequency required to detect carbon-based life signatures. It is an unfortunate coincidence that has happened 14 times in the last month. We are in a race against a deadline we don't fully understand. In just over 4 weeks, 3i Atlas will reach its closest point to Earth. The countdown is a quiet, steady rhythm in the back of every astronomer's mind. They are looking for the truth in the gaps between the satellites. They are looking for a sign that they aren't alone in their frustration. Share your thoughts below. Do you believe the interference is a price worth paying? Or have we lost something that can never be replaced? We are watching the closing of the celestial frontier, one satellite at a time. The night is no longer dark, it is a screen. And the screen is showing us exactly what we are programmed to see. Drift with the orbit of the data. Feel the weight of the obscured horizon. We are the generation that saw the stars disappear. But behind the screen, the object 3i Atlas is still there, unfolding, waiting, accelerating. The mystery is not out there. The mystery is why we are looking away. The ruins of Stonehenge stand as a silent testament to a time when the movement of the heavens was the only clock that mattered to humanity. 3i Atlas is currently carving a path through the sky that aligns perfectly with the ancient megalithic sightlines used to track the return of the Great Destroyer in Celtic myth. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration continues to insist that the object is merely an eccentric asteroid, but their own telemetry data from November 2025 shows a rhythmic pulse every 7 seconds. That is not a rock tumbling in space. That is a heartbeat. This is where it gets dark. We have a history of ignoring the signs until they are overhead. In 1456, the appearance of a great comet was seen as a sign of impending war, and the leaders of the time did everything to distract the public from the omen. Today, we don't use decrees, we use bandwidth. The satellites are not just blinding our telescopes, they are creating a physical barrier of electromagnetic noise. You might think we are too advanced to be fooled by such simple tactics, but the human mind is easily distracted by the shiny and the new. By December 12, 2025, the density of the satellite shell will reach a critical point where ground-based astronomy for objects of this magnitude will become functionally impossible. We are witnessing the intentional darkening of our species' vision. The ancients called it the covering of the eye, a period where the gods would withdraw their wisdom and leave man to stumble in the dim light of his own making. Why is the tracking of 3I Atlas being prioritized as a threat to national security rather than a scientific breakthrough? The irony is thick enough to choke the most optimistic researcher. We are building a cage and calling it progress. Tell me, have you ever looked up and felt like you were being watched by something just out of focus? We may not have to wait much longer to find out what it is. But even a cage has gaps, and sometimes the most revealing truths are found in the flickers. Let us move deeper into the pattern. The historical echo of this concealment is found in the records of the ancient library of Nineveh, where clay tablets described a cloud of iron that would one day descend to shroud the movements of the celestial watchers. In December 2025, that iron cloud has taken the form of nearly 40,000 active satellites, each a gleaming needle of interference, stitching a shroud over our atmosphere. Usually, when a society faces an existential discovery like 3I Atlas, the collective resources of humanity are pooled toward understanding. Instead, we are seeing a coordinated withdrawal of public data. On December 14, 2025, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reported a localized atmospheric disturbance over the Cerro Pachon Ridge that was physically impossible. A sudden, vertical column of ionized air that coincided precisely with the object's predicted transit over the Rubin Observatory. The impossibility stack continues to grow. Why would a private telecommunications network prioritize a series of redundant launches during the most critical observational window in human history? The official narrative suggests a race for global connectivity, but the thermal signatures of the latest Gen 3 satellites suggest they are carrying more than just transponders. They are carrying shielding. They are carrying the means to absorb the specific ultraviolet frequencies emitted by 3I Atlas. It is unfortunate timing, and those two words are doing a lot of work in the classified briefings that never reach the evening news. We are building a digital horizon, and every pixel is a deliberate omission. This is not natural physics, this is activation. When the object 3I Atlas entered the space between the Earth and the Moon on December 18, 2025, it didn't just move, it resonated. It began to emit a low-frequency hum, a tectonic vibration that was picked up by seismographs from Alaska to Antarctica. This was the first time an interstellar object has physically touched the Earth without making contact, and yet the public was told these were minor tremors caused by tectonic plate shifts. The data was scrubbed, filtered through a mesh of commercial satellites that acted as a giant orbital muffler. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University was the first to point out that the noise floor of the planet had been artificially raised to drown out the object's voice. You might think that the sheer scale of the universe makes our little planet's activities irrelevant, but here is why you are wrong. In the cosmic perspective, we are a civilization that has just turned on its lights, and now we are frantically trying to hide under the bed. The object isn't just a rock, it is a mirror. It is reflecting our own paranoia, our own need for control, and our own obsession with the immediate over the eternal. The ancients understood that the sky was a sacred text, meant to be read with humility. We are treating it like a billboard, and in our haste to sell the view, we have forgotten to actually look at what is behind the sign. The tracking of 3I Atlas is now being handled by the Space Force under a Tier 1 classification, a move that effectively removes it from the hands of civilian astronomers. They cite the object's unpredictable trajectory as a threat to orbital infrastructure, but the infrastructure is the very thing being used to hide it. It is a recursive logic that would be humorous if it weren't so terrifying. We are told the satellites are in danger from the object, so we use the satellites to block our view of the object. It is like closing your eyes to avoid a collision. It is a ritualized avoidance of the truth. In the deep time of our ancestors, the arrival of such a visitor would have been met with ceremonies of welcome or warnings of change. In December 2025, it is being met with a software update. On December 22nd, 2025, at precisely 3 in the morning, a gap in the Starlink mesh opened over the Pacific Ocean. For 48 seconds, a single telescope in Hawaii captured a high-resolution image of 3I Atlas. The image did not show a rocky comet. It showed a massive, translucent disk glowing with a vibrant neon green and aquamarine light, its surface shifting like a fluid. It looked less like a rock and more like a massive, interstellar lung, breathing in the radiation of our sun. The image was deleted from the server within minutes. The official version, released to the public, showed a blurry, grey asteroid. This is where the suspense turns into a cold, hard fact. We are being lied to about the nature of our guest. The satellites are the tools of that lie. They are the blinders on the horse, keeping us focused on the digital path ahead while the universe opens up beside us. You might feel a sense of soft regret, a longing for a time when the truth was as clear as the night air, but that time is being erased. We are in a race against a deadline we don't fully understand. In just over 3 weeks, 3I Atlas will make its final exit from our inner system. If we don't break through the interference by then, the covering of the eye will become permanent. The history of this concealment is being written in the code of the satellites, a language that most of us will never speak. But the pattern is there for those who know how to look for the flickers. The light from 3I Atlas is still trying to reach us. It is bending around the satellites, refracting through the atmosphere, whispering to our instruments in the language of mathematics. The hum is getting louder. The seismographs are still recording the pulse. Even if we cannot see it, we can feel it. The Earth itself is acknowledging the visitor. The iron cloud may be thick, but it is not impenetrable. There are moments, in the dead of night, when the network recalibrates, and for a heartbeat, the sky is honest. Those are the moments when the researchers hold their breath. Those are the moments when the unfortunate timing fails, and the truth leaks through the cracks in the cage. Why are we so afraid of a breakthrough? Perhaps it is because a breakthrough would mean admitting that we are not the masters of our own house. It would mean acknowledging that the digital empires we have built are nothing more than sandcastles in the face of a cosmic tide. The object 3I, Atlas, is a reminder that the universe is vast, mysterious, and utterly indifferent to our satellites. It is a call to wake up, to look beyond the screen, and to reclaim our vision. The irony is that the technology we built to connect us is the very thing isolating us. We have created a global village, but we have forgotten to build a window. The tracking of 3I Atlas is a test of our curiosity versus our convenience. So far, convenience is winning. But the countdown continues. Every 90 minutes, another train of satellites passes overhead, a mechanical reminder of our self-imposed limits. And every 90 minutes, the object moves closer, its green glow deepening as it drinks in the solar wind. We are watching the closing of the celestial frontier, but we are also watching the birth of a new kind of awareness, an awareness that the truth cannot be indefinitely suppressed. The flickers are becoming more frequent, the software glitches are becoming more suspicious. The weight of the mystery is settling into the bones of the world. On December 30th, 2025, a high-altitude research balloon over the Antarctic captured a radio signal that didn't come from the satellites. It was a melody, a complex, mathematical harmony that lasted for 12 minutes. It was the song of the traveler, a signal that matched the orbital resonance of 3I Atlas. It was a message sent directly through the gaps in the cage, and although the satellites tried to jam it, the harmony was too pure to be broken. This leads us to the first conspiracy currently being debated by the night shift technicians. There is a theory that 3 India Atlas is a passive observer system left behind by an ancient civilization that originated right here on Earth, millions of years before the first hominids stood upright. Think of it as a time capsule with a lens. It has been sitting in the cold vacuum, recording every volcanic eruption, every ice age, and now every radio broadcast. The Chinese tracking network has noted that the object's trajectory is so precise that it must be utilizing the Earth's own magnetic field for propulsion. It isn't fighting gravity, it is surfing it. The second conspiracy is more grounded in our current reality, but no less unsettling. Some analysts believe that the object is a dead man's switch for a civilization that no longer exists. Imagine a culture that realized it was about to be wiped out by a gamma ray burst or a planetary collision. They couldn't save themselves, so they sent up a witness, a silent sentinel that would wait until another intelligent species emerged, simply to say, "We were here." The fact that it is only now activating as we enter the year 2026 suggests that we have finally triggered a sensor threshold. We have become loud enough to be noticed by the ghost of a dead world. The third conspiracy, the one that keeps the directors of the Xi'an Satellite Control Center awake at night, is that 3 India Atlas is not a witness, but a redirector. There is evidence in the long baseline telemetry that the object is subtly nudging smaller near-Earth objects, tiny pebbles in the cosmic stream, into specific orbits. It is playing a game of celestial billiards, and we are the table. If you've ever watched a spider patiently repairing its web, you understand the methodical nature of this activity. It isn't rushing. It has all the time in the universe. You might think that such a discovery would lead to a unified human response, but history tells us otherwise. We are a species defined by our silos. While the Chinese Deep Space Network maps the object's gravitational wake, other agencies are likely scrambling to figure out how to claim it. The dry irony here is that 3 India Atlas clearly belongs to no one but itself. It is a sovereign entity of silicon and shadow. When you consider the myth of the dragon's pearl, a glowing orb that represented wisdom and power, always just out of reach in the sky, the scientific data begins to feel like a translation of ancient truth. The pearl was said to control the tides and the seasons. Today, the Purple Mountain Observatory has confirmed that the presence of 3 India Atlas, is causing infinitesimal but measurable fluctuations in the lunar orbit. It is a heavy, quiet realization. Our moon has a moon, and that moon is watching us. For those listening in the quiet hours, the thought of being watched can be either terrifying or strangely comforting. It means the silence of the universe is a lie. It means that even in our darkest moments, there is a record being kept. The National Astronomical Observatories have categorized the object's emissions as non-threatening but persistent. It is the cosmic equivalent of a steady, unblinking gaze. In the archives of the Vatican and the hidden libraries of Tibet, there are mentions of a silent brother to the moon, an object that appears at the turning of the ages. As we move closer to the specific alignments of December 2025, the historical echoes are becoming deafening. We are not experiencing a new event, we are experiencing a recurrence. We are the latest generation to look up and realize that the stage is much larger than we were told. The humor in our situation, if you can call it that, is how we try to fit this into our existing boxes. We call it an interstellar object. We give it a designation like 3 India Atlas. We treat it like a rock until the rock starts acting like a computer. It's like finding a smartphone in a Roman tomb and trying to categorize it as a very shiny chisel. The frustration in the scientific community is palpable. They are using the tools of the 21st century to measure the technology of the 20 millionth. As you drift towards sleep, let the vastness of this perspective settle into your mind. You are a passenger on a blue marble, hurtling through the dark, and for the first time in recorded history, we have confirmed that someone else is in the car. They aren't talking, and they aren't helping, but they are there. And perhaps, in the grand scheme of the cosmos, being seen is the first step toward being understood. The countdown to the next orbital refinement is less than 24 hours away. The tracking dishes at Jayamusi are tilting toward the horizon, waiting for the shadow to pass once more. The data will be clean, the math will be precise, and the mystery will remain as deep as the void itself. The sun is setting on our era of isolation, and the stars are starting to look very, very different. Think about the astronomers of the Ming dynasty, who believed that the movement of the stars reflected the health of the state. If they saw what the Miyun station sees tonight, they would likely go into a period of national fasting. We, instead, refresh our feeds and wait for a headline that may never come. There is a certain dignity in the object's silence. It doesn't need to shout to be the most important thing in the sky. We are approaching a threshold where the what if becomes what now. If the object is a mirror, what is it showing us about our own progress? Are we a success story or a cautionary tale? The National Astronomical Observatories of China continue to pull data from the noise, looking for a pattern that matches our own, but perhaps we should be looking for a pattern that challenges us. The shadow is growing longer, the night is deep, and 3 India Atlas is still there, its functional eye wide open, staring back at us from the backyard of our own solar system. It is a slow burn revelation, a ritualized unfolding of a truth we've always suspected but never dared to prove. We are not alone. We are simply the latest ones to arrive at the party. The long baseline tracking stations will continue their vigil. The technicians will drink their tea and watch the scrolling green lines of telemetry. And you, drifting in the quiet, can rest in the knowledge that the universe is far more populated and far more interesting than we ever imagined. The guest star is home, and it is waiting for us to finish our dreams so that we can finally wake up. But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. The laboratory at the Purple Mountain Observatory is bathed in a soft amber glow, a stark contrast to the cold blue data streaming in from the furthest reaches of the tracking grid. The 3 India Atlas object has recently displayed a surface temperature that remains a constant 22 degrees Celsius, regardless of whether it is in the direct glare of the sun or the freezing shadow of the Earth. This thermal stability is the hallmark of an advanced life support system or an incredibly sophisticated shielding technology, something that defies the thermal equilibrium laws practiced by every agency from NASA to the China National Space Administration. On December 3, 2025, a low-frequency hum was detected by the Jayamusi array, a sound that resonates at the same frequency as the Earth's own ionosphere. It is as if the object is trying to tune itself to the heartbeat of our planet, blending in like a predator wearing the scent of its prey. This leads us to 3 distinct conspiracies: that the object is a biological entity encased in stone, a von Neumann self-replicating probe, or a holographic projection meant to test our reaction times. Coupled with this is the mythic connection to the Eye of Horus or the Heavenly Pillar, structures that were said to maintain the balance between the terrestrial and the divine. You might think your daily life is far removed from these orbital anomalies, but the very GPS signals you use to navigate are being distorted by the gravitational wake of 3 India Atlas. It is an unfortunate timing for our global positioning systems to begin drifting by several meters just as a mysterious object takes up residence in our orbital plane. The experts like Avi Loeb are careful to frame this as a possibility, but the raw data from the Deep Space Network doesn't have the luxury of academic caution. It sees what it sees. And what it sees is an intruder that has made itself at home. We are counting down to January 26, 2026, a date when the object will be at its closest point to our atmosphere. What happens when the guest decides to walk through the front door? But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. The distance between the Earth and the Moon is a vast, echoing hallway of 384,000 kilometers. 3 India Atlas has positioned itself in the middle of this hallway, like a chair placed in a room where no one lives, yet where every movement is being noted. From the perspective of the galaxy, our solar system is a swirling disk of dust and ice, and we are microscopic inhabitants of a damp rock. But to 3 India Atlas, we are a variable. We are a chemical process that has reached the stage of radio transmissions and atomic fission. Deep time is not a concept we are built to understand. We think in seasons and decades. The object thinks in orbital precessions and the half-life of bismuth. The Chinese tracking network has monitored the object as it performed a series of gravity assists that used the Moon to tighten its grip on the Earth. It was a maneuver of extreme elegance, a cosmic ballet performed without a single puff of visible propellant. It moved like a predator, or perhaps like a gardener. When you look up at the night sky, you are looking through layers of history. The light from the stars is old, but the shadow of 3 India Atlas is contemporary. It is a bridge between the primordial dark and the digital present. The scale of the universe is intended to be humbling. It is a mechanism of perspective. We are small, and the orbit is wide. The Jayamusi Deep Space Station, situated near the Russian border, has the unique capability of tracking objects with extreme precision across the X-band and Ka-band frequencies. In the early weeks of January 2026, the technicians there began to notice a rhythmic warping of the local gravitational field surrounding the object. It was as if 3 India Atlas was inhaling and exhaling the vacuum itself. This is where the academic caution of researchers like Avi Loeb hits a wall of cold, hard telemetry. You cannot explain away a localized gravitational distortion with solar wind or outgassing. It is an active manipulation of the cosmic fabric. This brings us to the first conspiracy currently circulating through the encrypted channels of the China National Space Administration. There is a terrifyingly plausible theory that the object is a gravity anchor. By subtly altering the local curvature of space, it is not just observing us. It is stabilizing our orbit for a long-term project. Perhaps the Earth's natural wobble was becoming an impediment to its data collection. The dry irony of our situation is that we are worried about the object crashing into us, while the object might be worried about us drifting out of its focus. Unfortunate timing for those who believe we are the masters of our own planetary destiny, and those 2 words, unfortunate timing, continue to haunt every orbital refinement report. The second conspiracy is rooted in the deep time hypothesis. Some scientists at the Purple Mountain Observatory have pointed out that the object's current position matches an empty spot in the celestial charts of the Sumerians and the ancient Maya. These cultures possessed an uncanny knowledge of planetary cycles that spanned thousands of years. The theory suggests that 3 India Atlas is a cyclical regulator that returns every 3,600 years to reset the Earth's electromagnetic shield. If our global positioning systems are drifting, it may not be a malfunction, but a recalibration. We are the clocks being wound by a hand we cannot see. The third conspiracy involves the observer effect on a planetary scale. It suggests that 3 India Atlas is a quantum-linked processor. By simply observing the Earth, it is forcing our reality to collapse into a specific state. This is not science fiction. It is the logical extension of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. If an advanced intelligence is measuring our atmospheric composition and our technological output, it is fundamentally changing the trajectory of our development. We are a watched pot that is finally beginning to boil. The mythological resonance here is inescapable. In ancient Chinese cosmology, the heavenly pillar, or Buzhou mountain, was the axis that supported the sky and prevented it from falling onto the Earth. When the pillar was damaged, the sun, moon, and stars moved, and the world was plunged into chaos. Is 3 India Atlas a modern, metallic version of the Buzhou mountain? Is it the invisible axis around which our new technological reality is being forced to rotate? The ancients spoke of these things in metaphors of stone and bone, but we see them in spectrographic lines and Doppler shifts. As you lie there, drifting toward the edge of consciousness, consider the sheer loneliness of an object that has traveled across light years only to sit in a quiet orbit and watch. It does not demand worship. It does not demand resources. It only demands attention. By January 26th, 2026, that attention will be impossible to deny. The object will be so close that it will be visible to the naked eye as a steady, unblinking star that moves against the grain of the constellations. The dry irony is that we have spent centuries looking for aliens that look like us, talk like us, or want what we want. We never prepared for an intelligence that is essentially a geometric fact. 3 India Atlas does not need to land on the White House lawn to assert its presence. It only needs to exist in the math. The technicians at the Xi'an Satellite Control Center are finding that their orbital models are being corrected by the object itself. Every time they try to predict its path, it subtly shifts, as if it is teaching them a more advanced version of calculus. Think of the ancient mariners who used the stars to find their way across uncharted oceans. They trusted the sky to be a fixed, reliable map. We are the first generation to realize that the map can change. The constellations are the same, but there is a new north in the form of a 3 India Atlas signal. It is a guiding light for a future we didn't ask for, but one we must now inhabit. The long baseline tracking net is a webcast across the globe, and the object is the spider sitting at the center. It isn't a predator-prey relationship. It is a relationship of awareness. We are the vibration on the silk, and the spider is merely turning its head to see what has been caught. It is a restful thought, in a way, to be part of a larger design, even if we don't understand the pattern. The countdown continues. The drift in our GPS grows by millimeters every hour. The data is consistent. The mystery is expanding. And as you fall deeper into sleep, remember that the universe is not just big, it is occupied. The guest is at the door, and the clock is ticking toward a revelation that will change the meaning of the word home forever. But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. From the orbit of Mars, the high-rise camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3I Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, sensor artifact. The unofficial whisper said, structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional, the kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking. Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The high-rise camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like, well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids, not random, repeating, symmetrical, the kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects, artifact. But even as she says it, her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference, caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. 4. We don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3I Atlas corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from HiRISE contains another surprise. A faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter. Not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply. A pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure, photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, late in the night, a graduate student overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Faint, angular, deliberate. A hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. Then don't say it out loud. 3I Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion fields still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence, but the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. The echo isn't message, Sorel wrote. It's memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured. and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorrell stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response." The universe just said thank you. After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. Let's open the calculator now, the one the universe always breaks when we try to make sense of it. Astronomers ran the numbers and found something worse than anomaly impossibility. The chances of this trajectory existing naturally are 1 in a million. And if it isn't natural, then what exactly is it doing there? The math, at first glance, seemed harmless. A few columns of orbital parameters, the kind that make grad students fall asleep mid-coffee. But somewhere between the third decimal and the fourth significant digit, something snapped. The trajectory of 3i, Atlas refused to sit still. It bent where it shouldn't bend. It lingered where velocity demanded it should flee. The equations began to look less like physics and more like confession. Numbers fold, logic cold. Truth defies what sums have told. Normally, interstellar objects follow predictable patterns. You can model them like billiard balls across cosmic distances. They come in fast, swing by the sun, and leave no drama, no detours. But 3i Atlas's path wasn't graceful. It was stubborn. Its entry angle was too steep, its perihelion too shallow, its velocity too precise. Not fast enough to escape chaos, not slow enough to suggest capture. It behaved like an object that chose its speed. When astronomers plotted its orbit, the lines refused to meet expectations. There was a tiny deviation near Mars, just half a degree, but that half degree meant the math had to call in sick. Simulations that should have stabilized spiraled instead into noise. Gravity, that old, reliable law, looked like it had lost its grip. You picture the room where it happened. Laptops glowing, data charts scrolling, coffee cooling into existential sludge. Someone frowns at the screen and says, "That can't be right." Another replies, "Check your units." A third, softly, "I did." Graphs misbehave, models wave, certainty slips beneath the grave. And then comes the phrase every scientist dreads, statistically improbable, which sounds calm, but in the language of physics, it's a polite scream. Statistically improbable means we can't call it impossible without breaking tenure. The anomaly wasn't just its orbit, but its timing. 3. I-Atlas arrived exactly when Mars was positioned for maximum visibility, almost too perfectly. Not weeks earlier, not months later. Right there, right then, with 7 spacecraft ready and waiting. The odds of that happening naturally, 1 in a million. The odds of it happening twice, after Oumuamua's similarly suspicious arrival in 2017, 1 in a billion. You'd have better luck being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on a flying whale. ESA's internal memo summarized the problem delicately. Observed trajectory, inconsistent with gravitational expectations. Further analysis required. Translation: physics is mad at us. The more they recalculated, the stranger it got. Gravitational modeling suggested that the object's acceleration near Mars was slightly higher than predicted, even though there was no nearby mass to explain it. Radiation pressure from the sun could account for some of that, but not all. It's like watching a leaf fall upward and telling yourself, it's just wind you can't feel. Forces lie, numbers sigh, laws bend softly in the sky. NASA's dynamical systems team tried something desperate, reverse engineering the orbit backward through time, as if rewinding a film. When they did, 3I Atlas's path didn't trace cleanly into interstellar space. It looped a faint, impossible curve that seemed to originate from a region between known stars, a nowhere place, a mathematical shrug. That's when someone joked, maybe it's the universe's typo, but you could tell the joke wasn't funny. Typos don't maintain coherent structure for millions of kilometers. Meanwhile, the probability graphs looked like flat lines. Every statistical model screamed the same thing. This shouldn't exist. A few researchers began whispering about guided motion. The phrase never made it into print, but it appeared in Slack channels, in late-night emails. Not artificial, not controlled, just guided. And that's when the philosophical part kicked in. If something's improbable enough, does that make it unnatural or just unobserved? Chance or plan? Who began? Numbers blink but never span. Maybe the universe occasionally rolls dice that land on their edges. Or maybe it's not dice at all, but choreography. For context, the universe is massive enough to make 1 in a million events happen constantly. But that's comforting, only until you realize we just happen to be living inside one of those moments. Still, scientists crave sanity, so they kept calculating. One by one, they added variables: solar tides, non-gravitational jets, dust asymmetry, radiation torque. Each tweak made the model behave for a moment, until the numbers rebelled again. You could almost hear the equations groaning, like ancient machinery forced to simulate a trickster. Finally, a physicist from Bologna sent an internal memo titled simply, "Low probability, high significance." In it, she wrote, "We may need to consider non-standard dynamics," a phrase as gentle as it is apocalyptic. Non-standard dynamics means the universe is doing something new, and we don't have the vocabulary for it. Odds decay, math gives way, chaos hums where patterns stay. The truth is, impossibility doesn't scare scientists, it seduces them. Every law of nature we know today was born from something that once looked impossible. But deep down, they all know, once you cross into 1 in a million territory, you're either on the brink of discovery or a very expensive hallucination. So they stared at the numbers again, blinking hard, hoping they'd rearrange into something less extraordinary. They didn't. The comet that shouldn't exist kept existing, gliding through Mars's shadow like a cosmic dare, and somewhere between decimal points, someone whispered the question no one wanted in the official record. If it's not natural, then who or what set it in motion? Chance or choice? Silent voice. Numbers hum the universe's poise. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3I Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote. "It's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the web's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips. The work continues. Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the Webb's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the Webb, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another Webb was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. Tell them, his final log read, that continuity requires conversation, even with silence. The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. The cosmos, wrote one witness, had finally learned to conduct itself consciously. After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice, each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the skycam had caught something a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something, not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looked strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed. Source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing. A glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11.2 hours, a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it, if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, Sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3I Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again. Exactly 11 hours later, if you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? Asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute, as though 3I Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, in a late-night live stream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows it's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3I Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning. The quiet compulsion to continue. The physics of persistence. The refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance, like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, 3 nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from 3 sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when 3 agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely, as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, no mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it, not for discussion. The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today. Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government." It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast. Rumors cast. Silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3i Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. Buried inside the leak were coordinates, small anomalies in magnetic flux, and thermal output that didn't appear in public datasets. To most people, they looked meaningless, but to a handful of astronomers, They spelled a pattern. Pulses, spaced like a heartbeat. Not communication, perhaps, but rhythm. The kind of rhythm machines accidentally make when they're doing something alive. Let's step into the midnight side of science, the part where numbers stop behaving and start whispering. The insider's data dump wasn't flashy. It was a few megabytes of logs, raw telemetry, and timestamps. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you didn't already know what to look for. But somewhere in those dull columns of numbers, those precise, tidy decimals, something began to repeat. Regular, patient, almost polite. A rhythm, too intentional to be noise, too quiet to be coincidence. A doctoral student in Madrid was the first to spot it. She was supposed to be writing her thesis on cometary albedo variation. But boredom is a great tool for discovery. She noticed the flux spikes first, not random, but syncopated. Every 32 minutes, a pulse, then 32 again, then 32.1. "It's breathing," she joked in her notes. Her advisor didn't laugh. Within a week, a small network of late-night astronomers, the kind who believe in both data integrity and insomnia, began comparing results. Webb's readings, Hubble's logs, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's telemetry, all of them carried the same faint pulse, hidden deep in the noise floor, like the slow heartbeat of something sleeping under glass. The official response was predictable: instrumental interference. But even interference doesn't keep time this perfectly. One data analyst described it best: "If this is noise, it's the kind that practices scales." You might imagine those scientists, each at their own workstation, staring at that faint, repeating signal. The room around them dark, except for monitor light, pale blue rectangles reflected in tired eyes. Somewhere, coffee cups multiply. Someone opens a spreadsheet. Someone else starts counting beats per hour. The signal doesn't care who's watching. It keeps pulsing. 32 minutes. Every time. The idea that 3i Atlas might be producing a steady rhythm unsettles everyone. Rocks don't keep rhythm. Nature prefers chaos, the beautiful randomness of entropy. This is something else. Something maintaining itself. A loop running quietly, perhaps since before humanity learned to count its own heartbeat. ESA's communications division is told not to amplify fringe interpretations. The phrase fringe interpretation becomes the new code for "please don't mention the heartbeat." But inside private research chats, people are calling it exactly that: the heart. Not metaphorically, but as a label in the data. Every pulse marked with a tiny red heart emoji, because humor is the only thing keeping them sane. In the data visualization labs, they turn the pulses into sound. The result is eerie, a soft electronic thump, repeating slowly, endlessly. Some describe it as comforting, like listening to a deep-sea creature in sleep. Others say it sounds wrong, too human. One researcher admits it gave her the sense of being watched. What makes the rhythm stranger still is how it modulates with proximity. As 3i Atlas approaches a planet, the timing shifts slightly slower, then faster, as though adjusting. The beat follows gravity wells like a musician following tempo. It isn't random noise, it's environmental response. The object is, in some sense, listening. By now, independent labs have tried to replicate the pattern artificially. They can't. The waveforms are too clean, the timing too consistent. Even after running the data through compression, distortion, inversion, the rhythm holds. It's not data corruption, it's choreography. You can imagine the internal ESA memo that follows. No evidence of intelligence. Rhythmic behavior, likely coincidental. But coincidence has a habit of growing teeth. Because when they compared the rhythm's modulation to planetary positions, another pattern emerged, a mathematical sequence matching orbital resonance ratios. Not exact copies, but harmonics. The pulse was singing the solar system's geometry. The Madrid student who found it wrote, half-jokingly, "Maybe it's keeping time with us." The line goes viral in the small, quiet corners of the internet that still care about truth. Forums buzz with theories: gravitational self-stabilization, magnetic field synchronization, alien jazz. But underneath the noise, a simpler truth hums something old and orderly is alive out there, and it's following the rhythm of the system we call home. Late one night, one of the data analysts overlays the pattern against an ECG, a human heartbeat. The resemblance isn't exact, but close enough to make him stop breathing for a moment. Peaks, rests, peaks again. Life has a structure, so, it seems, does this. And that's when the idea shifts. Maybe it's not communication. Maybe it's not even meant for us. Maybe the rhythm isn't a message, it's maintenance. Like an old machine keeping its systems warm, humming softly to itself in the dark. You sit back and listen to the thought forming in your mind. What if this is what time sounds like when it remembers? The steady pulse of something that refuses to decay. Not speech, not signal, just being, continuity made audible. The data analysts, of course, move on. Reports are written, the leak becomes legend, and the heartbeat fades into archived files labeled spurious periodic activity. But the pulse doesn't stop. It's still out there, keeping time. And somewhere, 33 billion tons of impossible rock drifts through space, humming softly, perfectly, as if waiting for the universe to catch the beat. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the Sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I, Atlas, is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names: the immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together. A self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space. A wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion fields still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence, but the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. The echo isn't message, Sorel wrote. It's memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, "and it remembered the lesson." As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, -150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I, Atlas, is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3i Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together. A self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space. A wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3i Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3i Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote, "it's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the web's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the Webb's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the Webb, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another Webb was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. The cosmos, wrote one witness, had finally learned to conduct itself consciously. After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The Resonant Guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. The white, frozen peaks of the Himalayas touch the edge of the stratosphere where the air is too thin for lies and the stars are so bright they feel like ice. 3. Atlas is no longer an object of study. It is a permanent fixture of our collective subconscious. We recall the emerald pulse, the 3-degree turn, and the heartbeat that we pretended not to hear. The great silence has finally arrived. The Rubin Observatory has ceased its search. The Starlink satellites continue their endless mechanical transit, but they are flickering now, their batteries failing as they struggle to maintain the veil. We are left with a sky that is half glass and half void. Was 3 Atlas a warning we failed to heed, or a mirror reflecting our own frantic, distracted nature back at us? The question remains, hanging in the cold, thin air. You might think that the story ends here, with a silent guest and a blinded planet, but stories like this never truly end. They just loop, repeating until we finally learn to look through the noise. The ancients knew that the stars were the eyes of the ancestors, watching us to see if we would ever wake up. Perhaps the satellites are just the eyelids, and we are the ones who need to blink. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow. The silence that follows a missed revelation is the heaviest sound in the universe. We have reached the final days of March 2026, and the object known as 3 Atlas is beginning its long, inevitable swing away from our sun, retreating back into the cold, interstellar dark from which it emerged. It leaves behind a planet wrapped in a tighter, more luminous web than the one it found. We spent 9 months staring at the streaks on our lenses, arguing over bandwidth and orbital slots, while a guest of 1 billion years stood in our doorway, waiting to be acknowledged. It is an unfortunate timing that will be studied by historians of the 27th century as the moment humanity chose the signal over the source. You might feel a phantom vibration in your limbs, a lingering echo of the prime number hum that rattled the seismographs in December. That hum was a handshake we refused to complete. Every time a scientist tried to isolate that frequency, a new cluster of Starlink satellites was deployed to test a new radio spectrum. It was a statistical impossibility that became a permanent administrative wall. We have built a cage of 60,000 birds and called it a global conversation, but the only thing we have stopped talking to is the universe itself. The ancients spoke of the Great Year, a cycle of 36,000 years where the world would be purified by fire or flood. Perhaps our purification is more subtle. Perhaps we are simply being blinded so that the next stage of the experiment can proceed without our interference. Consider the final image captured by a rogue research station in the Antarctic before their uplink was accidentally severed on March 27th, 2026. It showed 3 Atlas not as a solid mass, but but as a series of nested geometric frames, shifting like a kaleidoscope. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't a rock, it was a doorway. And as it moves away, the door is closing. The light sail, if that is what it was, is now gathering the push of our sun to carry it back to the constellation of Pegasus. We are left on the shore watching the wake of a ship we claim didn't exist. The irony of our progress is that we have become the most connected civilization in history, and yet we are more alone than the first humans who sat around a fire and looked at the Milky Way with nothing but their own eyes. The satellites continue their transit, marking the sky with cold, straight lines of titanium and silicon. They do not sleep, they do not wonder, they only relay. And as you lie there, drifting on the edge of consciousness, the weight of the obscured horizon begins to feel like a blanket. It is a comfortable ignorance. We have traded the terrifying vastness of 3i Atlas for the predictable reliability of a high-speed downlink. We have traded the mystery of the traveler for the certainty of the screen. Dr. Jacqueline McClary once wrote that the true observer effect is that we eventually become what we observe. We are becoming a network. We are becoming a grid. We are becoming the very noise that blinded us. This is the great silence. The sensors at Cerro Pachon are cold now. The astronomers have gone home to their families, to their lit houses, and their digital lives. The leaked memos, the 3-minute signals, and the emerald glow are being archived as unexplained atmospheric phenomena, a polite scientific term for things we saw but weren't allowed to understand. But the pattern remains. The mathematics of the 3i Atlas trajectory are still in the databases, a hidden code that will wait for another generation, perhaps one that hasn't built its own eyelids. Drift now. Drift past the satellites, past the orbital debris, past the digital noise. Drift into the space where the math ends and the wonder begins. The horizon is closing, but the dream is just starting. 3i Atlas is a name in a file, a pulse in a seismograph, a shadow on a lens. But in the deep time of the cosmos, it is a brother, a silent guest who saw us and moved on. We are alone, but we are watched. We are blinded, but we are seen. The orbit of tomorrow is a circle that leads back to the stars. The noise is just a fever dream of a young species. The silence is our true home. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow.